I'm sorry to ruin your lunch again. But here's what we're going to talk about, right? You can decide to sit in the quagmire of everything that's wrong, or you can really shift your thinking to say, like, I would not be the person I am today without that experience, for sure, which comes with a lot of positives and negatives. I think not feeding your content to AI is like not allowing search back in the day, not letting search engine crawlers crawl your website. For us to design and build the Empire State Building today, it would cost us 3 times as much, take 3 times as long, and not be nearly as good. No BIM was used in the development of the Empire State Building. So what happened? What happened? We went from a highly centralized alignment to a massively decentralized system where nobody is actually in charge.
Would less people die at least?
I don't know. I'm sure there was. That's we're definitely. Look, if we say that are we saving more lives by I'm going to give you, if I give you more change orders, I'm going to save more lives. We like that. I don't know that there's a correlation to budget bloat and schedule bloat to saving lives and safety. But no, that's a fair thing. Right? You definitely had a lot more fatalities and injuries. They may not know how a building is actually built. There's
Nobody
also
ever says it that way.
There's also that, right? I've been sitting in front of my computer on Revit all day. I don't actually know how things are built, right? The real thing is your data's worthless. Your data's worthless.
I've been very suspicious of that. Because I was in forensic construction management and I saw how you kind of try to backwards engineer a project, and it's like, this information isn't good. It's not reliable. We were taking emails and daily reports more so than any other kind of data as facts of what happened. It was emails and daily reports. Mm-hmm. Like where somebody actually wrote something. That was reliable to us.
Wow, it's weird.
I was just looking at YouTube settings like a minute ago and realizing that it has a setting for like give this podcast to AI to feed it, and I just turned that on. Do you think what are the implications? Like, I should ask you this question, right? Because do you think we should feed all our content to AI? In my case, I'm thinking yes.
Yeah. I think not feeding your content to AI is like not allowing back in the day, not letting search engine crawlers crawl your website. Like
Simple enough.
If you want to show up, like, have you chat GPT'd yourself?
A little bit. I try to keep telling it like, hey, check out Constructive podcast. Do you know who Seth Cockman is? Come on, figure it out, because he's a very important person. I bet almost all my audience knows who you are, KP, but I'll just do like my version of a really brief intro, which is founder of Shadow Ventures, author of 2 books that I'm getting through. 3 books. Sorry. I know about the first one, but I just have started reading this, finished this one, still in this one. Both really good books. Check them out. I know there's like a really long list of your business portfolio that I could go through, but I'm not going to do all that.
Yeah.
But basically, I wanted to start off with some kind of personal stuff, like about you and I were talking about encouraging your children to get engineering degrees. And I wonder if that you anticipate changing with your 3-year-old, or if that's always going to be the case, and kind of why engineering? Because you specifically said no software and engineering, right?
I think because it's the foundation, right? You have to take a lot of calculuses, you have to take physics, you have to take chemistry, like you have to take enough of the scientific food groups that allows you to have a lot of flexibility in what you do. I also think there's very few things. I don't know if you've ever heard anyone from a self-improvement perspective later in life. And I can tell you the rules I gave my kids growing up, but no one like wakes up in their 40s. It's like, damn, I really need to learn physics. Like it's really important that I learn physics right now. Whereas people do things like, I need to read more. I wish I could improve my writing. Like those are all things, but And even in a work environment, right? It's more likely as an engineer that you get told you need to improve your communication skills than being in marketing and someone's like, hey, you need to understand how sheer moments work.
Right. Yeah, I think the hard skills you gain in an engineering degree are, but I also think you need soft skills. I wanted to talk to you about this. I'm going to read just a quick part of your book because I want to talk to you about joy, like joy of working. I think this is important. I think this kind of, to me, it was you refinding joy, but you said during my pre-retirement I learned your real job is to be an artist whose creation is your own life. When you're an artist, you think for yourself. By doing that, you're less likely to follow cults. And when you tap into what's unique to you, life flows. This is something I just think we're losing in our industry. Can you talk about how we find it again and why it's important?
Yeah, I think part of it is like perspective, right? A little bit you have to I'm a big fan of like you go do a bunch of work, you work your butt off, you roll with the punches and then you reflect, right? You reflect and you try to take a look at like what did I do? And then you try to figure out like, hey, let me do more of the things that I enjoyed and let me avoid the things I did not enjoy, right? And I think one of the things that in our industry specifically we don't reflect on our purpose of why we're doing things. We're too busy being in a meeting. We're too busy being dealing with the change order, dealing with the construction, like whatever it is, right? The minutia. And then we forget like, oh, I'm building a school for young people to be educated that are going to shape the future of humanity. That's what you're doing. But I think it's really easy to like not get in that. And that's one of those things I really I think I one of the things I dislike in the industry is I think the more people that can have attribution to a project, the better, right? The guy that's like tying rebar should be able to look at that school and say, hey, that's my school. I was part of it, right? It's not just the boss or the architect of record. I really think we have to be very comfortable to give attribution to everybody on a project. And then everybody like will start to understand like what their mission was. Like why were they doing it?
I want you, if you're willing, to give a version of your your childhood story because it was powerful in your book. And I feel like it kind of goes to some stuff I want to talk in depth about, just being thrust into entrepreneurship. I don't know if you feel like you had a choice in the matter, but talk me through like how that happened.
You know, one thing I'll say is like, right, my dad, while being a civil engineer and growing up, he always had a side hustle. He had a travel agency for a while. He bought an old office building and we were as kids, we had to like go clean it up and wax the floors and go work on the office building like on our weekends, right? So I think like I definitely observationally saw my dad being an entrepreneur and side hustling. So I can't say that like I wasn't exposed at some level as a kid around entrepreneurship. But you know, when my dad passed away, my dad decided that I was the youngest kid and my older siblings didn't know much about India because he immigrated in the late 50s. So it was all about assimilation, keep your head down, assimilate kind of thing. And so when he got to me, he was like, hey, like, I want to expose you to the country you're from. So we moved back when I was in high school. And he started an engineering, construction, and development company in India. And so about a year and a half after starting that, he passed away. And so it was super interesting because I used to have to go to the office every day. I was in charge of the computer, right? So that's how I learned to do a lot on I'd already learned a lot before I went to India, but basically he bought a computer and I sat there at that computer and did stuff for his firm. Um, and so, you know, I kind of knew what was going on in the business. I knew the employees, I knew what was going on. He used to drag me out to job sites, you know. I used to inspect rebar with him, you know, that kind of thing, right? I knew how to use a level. Like I was just, you know, it's that kind of stuff, right? Um, so when he passed, we basically had like projects at three different levels of completion, right? Ones that were just starting, ones that were right in the middle of, and ones that were tailing off. And so I kind of was thrust into go figure this out. Right. And so, like the new ones, I sat down with the employees. I'm like, hey, like, I'm not sure what you're going to do. If you're going to go start a company, you can have these projects. These ones we haven't even started. If you can convince the client, they're yours. Right. These ones that are in the middle, I need some of you guys come like to stick around or take them on or whatever. These ones that we need to finish up, we need to knock those out so I can get the cash. Right. So I can get all the money and pay all the bills. And so it was, it was a process of basically shutting the business down. But let me tell you, like, um, in that situation, the employees go from being very supportive to kind of being super opportunistic. Right here, I'm 15 years old, man. 15, right? And it's an interesting dynamic being 15. Like, if you reflect on what you were like when you were 15, your memory plays tricks on you and you believe you were a lot more mature than you were. When my oldest kid turned 15, I looked at him, I was like, I was that baby when I took over a company. Like, it's just like, what? Like, I was like, he's like, look, he doesn't look young for his age. That's just how old I was, right? I had no context of what being a 15-year-old taking over a company. And so then when I think about that, I think about these employees are like, what is this kid doing? Like, reality was I was just doing what I needed to do to get the job.
Do you think some of that is formational and you're grateful for it? Or do you look back on it negatively?
Like most things in life, you can decide to sit in the quagmire of everything that's wrong, or you can really shift your thinking to say, like, look, I would not be the person I am today with that experience, without that experience, for sure, which comes with a lot of positives and negatives.
You have so many lessons learned. You learned
Yeah.
a lot.
Yeah. I also think work ethic and some of that stuff is just, people ask me how I work. So funny story, like, I've had two team members leave in the last 2 months, and their reason was very simple. I can't keep up with you, and your expectations are too high.
That sounds like fun to me. I like challenges,
So,
but I get it.
and like we're still friends. It's not a failing, right? It's just that I do like run fast. I do a lot, and I think the worst thing anyone working for me can do, I'm sure they'll listen to this, is try to keep up.
Hmm.
Right? Don't try to keep up. Try to figure out how to stay ahead. Right? Try to think a couple steps ahead of me and kind of already be there. And I think that's kind of an important thing
You
to
also
do.
probably don't want your employees to be duplicates of you, right?
No, no.
How do you encourage it? Like, you don't have to. Probably you hire the people that already have this is who I am and I'm going after this. Or do you have to tell people stop trying to be like,
Well, it's pretty fascinating, right? Because you don't want people to pattern how you do things because it's not what works for them. I mean, I was talking to a friend last night. And I said, take an employee that's working 20 hours a day, 7 days a week. Then ask yourself why, right? Am I overtaxing them with workload, or are they just in over their head on their job? Right. And that's not a failing. That's just a misalignment, right? That's a misalignment. And, I do this thing, what I call my burn the ships move, right? When people come to me and they say they want more responsibility, I'm like, fantastic. Always happy to help you reach stretch goals. However, we're going to burn the ships. If it doesn't work out, there's no going back. If it doesn't work out, you're gone. You need to really understand that like what you're signing up for when you say, I want to stretch, I want to do more.
have you ever gone back on that and been like, okay, fine, you make it a role?
Engineering brain has its drawbacks, but being a binary thinker is not one.
In our little community there, Kevin came up with kind of a cool, I'll tag him, but cool version of a question just about kind of, I think too, like him, that some of us in the architectural engineering field are somewhat immune to some of this crazy disruption that might happen with AI or is happening with AI. But can you make us in this industry maybe feel a little bit better about our position? There's a lot to fear about technology. And I've seen I want to talk a lot about fear because I've heard you, I've been going through the archives, and it seems like a lot of the times you talk about stuff that you're presenting an opportunity to people. You're saying, look, this is coming, get on board. It's going to be great for everybody. And they freak out. I get why they're freaking out just because I've seen it for 15, 20 years. Like they don't want competition. They like the way things are. It's kind of cushy. And so it's scary. But I am seeing it the way you are. Like these are opportunities for people. Can you help us maybe, like, let's go there too, but in the consulting realm, like if I have some architectural engineering skills, if I've seen construction, I've spent 10 years kind of seeing the field, can we feel a little bit comfortable about the future?
You want me to make you feel comfortable about being complacent?
Okay.
Is that
So
what I just
embrace
heard?
the fear? Is this the, I'm trying to frame it in, okay, some people
Yeah,
are afraid. It's an opportunity, right? It's
it's
exciting.
100% opportunity, right? And I think, like, what are you afraid of?
I'm not. I'm trying to express the concerns of others, which I think is just they're like, well, maybe I'm not as smart as KP and I don't really understand this tech stuff. So I'm going to get left behind. He's telling me it's the Borg. Come, or what is the thing? Like
Yeah,
assimilate or die, right?
right.
That's your
Yeah,
message. How do you
yeah.
not think that's scary?
Well, I mean, I'm not saying that you can't tell people how to feel, right? But I'm saying that, like, what's the other option, right? You can be afraid now of what might happen, or it happens, and then be afraid of like being able to make a living. Right. So what's the trade-off, right? I mean, I generally believe people that are very fearful a lot of times, right? And it's an emotional thing, right? There's other things going on in their lives. And also they're not trying to optimize, so to speak, for what the options are, right? What are those options, right? Okay, great. AI, you're a structural engineer like Kevin, right? AI starts doing structural engineering. Okay. Like let's say that's the worst case. And I didn't get on board with it, right? So what's my next career? Right? Start thinking about that. Maybe I go into teaching. I don't know. Like, right. So I think if you map out like this is where you can feel better. Like, what's my worst case, my mid case, my worst case? And what does this look like? And then if you apply like a thinking around timing of what when this stuff might happen, like I speak to these CEO, like I spoke to 400 CEOs of AEC companies the other day at this WIG event, and I was like the keynote 2 days in a row. And at the second day I came up and I was like, I'm sorry to ruin your lunch again, but here's what we're going to talk about, right? And these CEOs come up to me like, oh my god, like you know why I'm scared is because I think you're right. I'd love to say like you're out of your mind, you're crazy, you're a techno optimist, like whatever. Like I probably think you're right. And it's so funny, like those folks, right? These are very comfortable, experienced people. Well, KP, I've got about 5 more years left in my career till I retire. I think I'm fine. I think I can glide out into retirement before this AI thing consumes me, right? And so I don't think that guy's scared. He's fine. He's fine. He's like, yeah, I agree. This is what's happening. I'll just, at worst case, I retire 2 years early. Like, who cares, right? So I think there is something about looking at what your life optionality is. Let me tell you, like in my career, like my first company, I grew from 2 people to 1,200 people in 3 years. Shortly after that, I had to lay off about half my company after 9/11, after the economy tanked. And almost everyone I had a conversation with about leaving the company years later came back to me and said, man, that was the best thing. Like the experience I had with you, I wasn't happy at the time that you let me go, but the experience I had with you, like I carried all those skills that you like coached me on into the future. And it's funny, I was, out with my son today, Devin, and we're going through like the roster of people like in my ecosystem. And I was like, Dad, that guy was an intern with you. He's running a venture fund now. Did you know that? This guy was at this thing with, I'm like, yeah. And I used to run these little internship groups. And it's like, everybody in that little internship group that I work, like, they're like almost on partner track to Bain at Bain and this and that. Now, like, so I think if you can detach from job and work and say, like, hey, every one of these things is an experience and journey, sure, be afraid. We're all get afraid. But like, what are you gonna do about it? You can curl up in the corner in the fetal position? That doesn't sound like the right option either.
Agreed. Yeah, it's funny because I'm not you, obviously, but I try to have some of these conversations with the people around me in construction, and I genuinely get laughed at.
Mhm.
They think it's funny, like, "Oh, you think AI is gonna take over construction?" Like, it's hilarious.
Yeah, good. That's a few less competitors for you.
I agree. Um, you're even I think Shadow Ventures website advertises it this way, but we're in a $1 trillion business or construction, $1 trillion industry. Probably, in my opinion, the hardest problems around. It seems like your mission is try to benefit the industry
Mhm.
in a venture capital way. Is like in contradiction to finding the alpha. Can you do both?
Yeah, you can do both. I mean, the way you find, the way you find any value is you create value, right? And you have to do that through, it can be through technology. There's simple things observationally, right? When you're building a new construction project, why is there a job site dumpster?
There's garbage.
There's waste. Right. So let's weigh the tonnage of every dumpster that leaves a job site. Right. So why do we have waste? Right. So if you think about it, if 10 to 20% of a project ends up in the dumpster, materials end up in the dumpster, and take that at a macro level, we can now build a free house for everyone. And I think there's not enough alignment of motives around making changes around these ideas, right? So I think technology is one answer, right? Allocating capital to founders that are passionate about solving a big problem is part of the answer, right? So I'm not doing it alone, but I do believe this. I was giving a talk the other day, and you have to do your little intros, right? I was like, civil engineer, entrepreneur, venture capitalist, slowly working less and less every day and making a bigger and bigger impact every day. Because ultimately, capital probably has the most force multiplier for change. As a civil engineer, I go project to project to project and do my best, right? As an entrepreneur, I build projects, technology and ideas that help make people do their job better. But if I can allocate capital to 50 founders that can go drive change, that's my ultimate scaling mechanism. So that's how I look at how I drive change.
Can we outline? I think it would just help if people don't know exactly who you are, haven't heard you speak before. Like maybe you can describe the future of construction that you see, that you want to take us to. Is that too broad of a question?
No, I think. Well, let's take the time machine back, right? So my team did some analysis on the Empire State Building and did inflation adjusted, dollar adjusted math on it. And basically the conclusion was for us to design and build the Empire State Building today, it would cost us 3 times as much, take 3 times as long, and not be nearly as good. No BIM was used in the development of the Empire State Building. So what happened? Like what happened?
Would less people die at least?
I don't know. I'm sure there was. Yeah. That's for definitely. Look, if we say
Okay,
that
you can
we're
continue.
are we saving more lives by oh, I'm going to give you, if I give you more change orders, I'm going to save more lives. We like that. I don't know that there's a correlation to budget bloat and schedule bloat to saving lives and safety. But no, that's a fair thing. Right? There, you definitely had a lot more fatalities and injuries. But if you look at that and you say, well, all this technology and nothing's happened. Well, I think here's the difference, right? When I studied this, back then you had the master builder, somebody that owned all the success and all the liability for the project and every stakeholder involved. There was one throat to choke, full stop, right? Then what happened? We moved away from master builder mentality. to, okay, we're going to break up design and construction. Now we're going to break up design into architecture and engineering. Buildings got more complicated. And now you have an indoor lighting consultant, an outdoor lighting consultant, an architectural lighting consultant. So what happened is we went from a highly centralized alignment to a massively decentralized system where nobody is actually in charge, right? Why can't an architect mandate means and methods to a contractor? One, they'll scream liability. Two, they may not know how a building is actually built.
Nobody ever says it that way.
There's also that, right? I've been sitting in front of my computer on Revit all day. I don't actually know how things are built, right? So there's lots of, but I think that's what's happened is you've had the business has become highly decentralized. So what does that mean? I think what that means is where it's highly decentralized, it's highly asynchronous. Sorry, it's highly asynchronous, meaning there's not a constant flow of information. It's a little bit of the telephone game. It's a little bit of interpretation. I mean, drawings are a whole study of interpretation. They're not prescriptive by any means. It's like, yeah, that kind of looks like, yeah, that might be how that goes together, right? So I think what does the future look like? The future looks like leveraging AI to highly orchestrate and re-centralize how we think about projects, to centralize an authoritative structure around project ownership and outcomes. I think it also involves a lot of industrialization, whether it's robots on site or prefab offsite, and really thinking about things in that way. Unfortunately, the design teams are worried about drawings and specs, less so specs, because that's mostly cut and paste work. And the contractors are trying to read the minds through these drawings, through these artifacts called drawings, to somehow decipher what they're building and kind of get by. And I'm not saying that in a derogatory way. It's more like if I don't know what it is you want, I'm just going to iterate to get close enough to where you approve that this is what you wanted. Right? It's like a friend of mine told me a long time there's no such thing as project completion, there's only project abandonment. It's like a mutual choice to abandon things. Right? And people ask, like, why don't as-built drawings ever get done? It's like, that's as much the owner as it is the contractor. The owner's like, just give me the damn keys. I need to go into my building now. Well, what about the 10% retainage? And I need to do as-built. Okay, we'll wire you the money tomorrow. It's fine. Like, we don't care. Just give us the keys. Right? So I think that's the shift. And the shift is happening because the technology exists to think about these things in a synchronous way, kind of be some level of connective tissue in this highly dispersed and distributed environment, centralized environment. And I think you have a better idea of the physical technologies. I went and visited a factory yesterday. This is why I have look, I have the coolest job in the world. I get to go see stuff, but I don't actually have to do work. Right. I'm sure the guys working in this factory are like, oh, really cool for the guy that's not sweating, but I get to go do this fun stuff. And these guys were building wall panels every 7 minutes.
How big?
And I was like, damn, like this is amazing. Like this is cool. And I'm like, so why isn't everybody using your company? Well, the architects don't want to follow our guidelines. They want to design whatever they want to design. I'm like, well, why aren't they designing with you in mind? They just don't want to be told what to do. And in the world of our job is to find the best solution. It's not finding the best solution that makes us feel good. It's finding the best solution for the owner and for the users of the building. So when I think about the future, it's in my LinkedIn profile. AI design buildings, robot built buildings.
The way you're laying out the problem too, it reminds me of the medical field, just because like you go to a doctor, you think like your throat hurts and they send you to a throat specialist, and then they're like, well, this actually might be in your stomach, you need to see oh, it's actually a skin thing. You end up at a bunch of different specialists, right? And the way you're describing it sounds like maybe AI can help in all those industries in that way, is like getting rid of the silos, like some kind of unifier to all this information. I think to get there, that we have to be like open with our data, right? That's like a big hurdle. No? Explain.
Okay, so tell me about this amazing data that you have.
Do you want to get rid of all the data? Is that
Oh, the data that generated 1,500 RFIs? That data? That cost data that wasn't right in the first place? Yeah, I'm being real about this, right? So when we think about, I see this from so many companies. My God, we have so much data. It's so valuable. We just need to clean it up, right? We need to structure it. And I'm like, no, you don't. That's AI's job. You don't need to structure your data. That's the benefit of AI, right? Secondly, the real thing is your data is worthless. Your data is worthless.
Been very suspicious of that. Like, because I was in forensic construction management and I saw how you kind of try to backwards engineer a project, and it's like, this information isn't good. It's not reliable. We were taking emails and daily reports more so than any other kind of data as facts of what happened. It was emails and daily reports, like where somebody actually wrote something. That was reliable to us.
Wow, it's weird. And do those emails and daily reports, are they relevant to your next project?
Always, right?
Not really.
Well, it depends. If you put it through AI and help and have it like, no, not to me. When I had Discovery come and drop off hundreds of documents, no, that's not valuable. But once I like dug through it to find that smoking gun, it becomes very valuable.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I think that's the thing, right? I think you have to really, and by the way, there's a lot of people looking at AI and all this technology in a very, I would say, consumerish way, right? They don't really understand the underlying aspects of how technology works, right? Getting into the machine language, getting into the zeros and one, like they don't really understand. People don't understand that an image is just a table, just a table. Everything is just a table. It's a table that's connected to other tables. That's all it is, right? And so I think that's one of those things that we deal with is, this idea that our data is worth something. Um, I think you have to think about synthetic data. I don't know if you've ever studied the difference between Tesla and Waymo in the self-driving aspect. Waymo required the training of good drivers to mimic human drivers. Now, the good news is, actually, we're as humans, we're actually pretty good drivers, right? We're if you think about it in the grand scheme of things, the speeds at which we go with, and we're pretty good drivers. Waymo mimics our driving, right? The human driving. That's what it mimics. Tesla is much more using cameras to learn how to drive, not learn from you, the human, right? I always say Waymo's learned from the dirty humans, and from Tesla's learned from its surroundings, right? So it was not feeding a Waymo was getting fed data. The learning cycle was how you braked, how you gassed, how you turned. That's what it was learning the whole time, and then applying those learnings to driving. Tesla said, "Oh, that's a wall. Don't run into that. That sign says stop. I guess that means I need to stop." It's learning from its environment, not from the user. And the benefit to that is there's high adaptability to training, off of environment versus artifacts, right? So my CTO and I were sitting down. I was like, "Hey, I think we should build our AI model to train off job site cameras, because that's reality. That's what's really happening." Do you want to look at a Gantt chart out of Primavera to teach AI how schedules work?
No, I don't. Please don't.
Right? It's like they're all wrong. They're all wrong.
Yeah.
Or do you want to set up a bunch of job site cameras on a project and have it learn? This is what happens. Oh, it turns out the foundation goes in before the column. Let it learn that, right? So that's how you need to start thinking about the two aspects of how you think about synthetic data. Unfortunately, we're all sitting here going like, "Oh, we need to upload all our drawings and our specs." And by the way, in the last week, I've had 30 companies pitch me RFP response.
I think I've told you about one of those
Oh, there's
like a week ago.
yeah, you know what it's called? It's called ChatGPT. You don't have to create it. So I think it's really interesting. Everybody's trying to look at these like weird little low value edge cases, right? It's like, oh, we can respond to more RFPs. I'm like, great. How many more are you going to win? The answer is the same because if you didn't write the RFP, you're probably not getting project.
That makes me think about my thoughts about you've talked about paradoxical moats and just like thinking differently being important. Isn't that hard to do? Award people who are contrarian? You probably just like to see people disagree with you, even maybe.
No, so someone asked me, like, how do I'm like, if you come back, look, what I'll tell you is the biggest thing you have to do is come back to first principles. Full stop. But and it gets used a lot, and the term gets used a lot. But I always say like first principles are we're trying to build a building that serves society on budget and on time. That is what we're doing. That is the job. Anything outside of that is not the job, right?
Amen.
So when an architect is like spending all this time working on some detail that's wrong, how is that going to work, right? It's not helping any of those things. And it's not like the owner's sitting there going, hey man, I had to call you. That door detail you did, man, blew my mind. You're such a great architect. That has never happened. That has never happened.
Maybe it's super nerdy. Like, I mean, possible.
So who is it? Who is that door? It's for the contractor. Don't imply what you mean, say what you mean. And it feels like everything in drawings and specs are like implications of like, I mean, here's kind of what I'm thinking. Now go figure it out. Let's see you run around and figure it out. Right. How does that serve anybody in any way?
Yeah, and
That's not first
sometimes
principles.
the RFI comes after that. The contractor goes to the site and reads the plans, looks at it like, and then they just say, "What the F is this?" in an RFI, and then the architect's like, "What do you mean?" Like obviously in different languages, but it becomes a back and forth and very frustrating to be a project manager in that situation, just being like, "Hey, can you ask an intelligent question? Can you give an intelligent answer? Like, can we just do that?"
And oh, by the way, I don't know. Let me go find out is also perfectly okay.
Yeah.
Also, it's okay for an architect or an engineer to look at the contractor dead in the eye and say, "Yeah, I'm not sure. What do you think? You've been doing this for a while. How do you think I should draw that detail out?"
Man, I wish they would
How
do
often
that.
does that happen?
I've never heard that happen. Have you?
Oh,
Man, I would
but
like,
that's my point about first principles, right? That should be the answer, right? I'm trying to get this project that serves society on time, on budget. That is all anyone cares about it's like the mantra of the morning.
mhm,
We're here to build a school for 1,000 kids to serve this community and take care of our future. That is what we're here for. Second, it needs to be on time. Third, it needs to be on budget. Carry that with you along your day today, everyone, and don't get hurt. That's it.
yeah,
And unfortunately, when you have misaligned objectives and incentives, then what?
yeah. And that's why I guess I keep thinking of it like the solution, like everybody enjoy yourself at work and everything would get better. Like I know there's technical solutions here, but I honestly think if we had joy in our work, we would be thinking about like, oh, what does this owner want? What's going to make this owner happy? What's going to serve this community? I find joy in those things. So that's what I'm searching for, is what's going to give me joy in this process. And I think that brings you to first principles. I know it's not the actual solution, but I feel like it's part of it, because if you can just have fun, you look
No,
okay.
100%, right? I love it when um we all get some level of joy out of our work, right? But we get joy out of results, right? And I'm one of these. My wife always says like I'm the worst celebrator. I'll like come home like, hey, I sold this company, made a couple bucks. I'm like, okay, I gotta go. She's like, please pause. Can we stop for 2 seconds and at least say you won? and celebrate. We don't have to spend a dollar. Can we just acknowledge for 7 seconds that you won and celebrate for a second? I got to go. Next thing. I'm the worst,
Yeah,
right?
because
So
you're
I'm
probably like, relief. You're like, ooh, phew.
yeah, yeah. Now let's go to the next thing, right? But I think I agree with you. The joy, um, and by the way, we can talk about data and centralization and decentralize all that stuff, right? But who shows emotional leadership on a construction project? Is the architect walking around looking at the mason and go, man, you're doing a fantastic job today? Is the
So it's like
engineer
the
walking
foreman or
around?
something.
There's none of that. It's more like, hey, what the hell are you doing? Or just walk right
100%.
by and not even acknowledge the person.
Yeah.
Right. So when I talk about
Where's your safety vest? Or, like, what are you doing?
right,
That's what
exactly.
I hear on construction.
Yeah.
Stop! That's what I hear.
There you go. There you go. Right. I mean that's my point, right? So I think if we think about first principles and focus on these things and are on all aligned on like what success looks like, and that success doesn't have to cost us, for me to be successful, that doesn't mean you have to lose. I think that's where, and so we talk about like the technical aspects, which we can talk about AI and all those things all day. But I think culturally, being a leader on a job site and really keeping the optimism up and keeping the purpose front and center, I think is kind of an important thing.
Let's talk about, like, if you don't mind, that kind of leads into like how do you decide? This is what I see as your job, like pick good ideas and pick good people, right? Like, just give me some tips. Like, you must have picked some good ideas and good people to be where you're at. How did you do it?
There's some truisms that I have, right? The first idea is rarely the right idea. So a lot of times I ask founders a lot, like, so what else have you worked on? And I'll tell you, in our industry, founders that come from our industry, they're kind of stubborn. I know that there needs to be a way to use AI to create punch lists. So that's what I'm working on. Okay, great. Like, what else have you looked at? What do you mean? I know this. I've been doing this for 20 years. What do you mean? Right? So you have to have failure and learn from it. And I always say, like, it's, and, if you think about probabilities, right? At some point, well, they failed the first time. First one was a bad idea. Second one was a bad idea. The seventh idea, probably a winner. You
I like
can't
the
you
sound
can't
of
have a
that.
dry run forever, right? So you really want to ask people how they got to where they are, what their journey has been, and what were the obstacles along the way. I think it's also important to understand like why. So in startup world, we like to use this term pivot. And what I tell people is it's a pivot if you're still working on the same problem statement. Hey, I'm worried about job site safety. I built an app. App didn't work out. Okay, great. I built a consulting company. That didn't work out. Okay, I'm selling hard hats now. Right? Those are all solving the problem at some level. And pivoting means I'm trying different solutions to solve that singular problem. The minute you say I'm solving a different problem, right? Then maybe it's not a pivot, it's a new business. Right? So I think I really want to understand how closely people rolled up their sleeves to study the problem. When I was at Georgia Tech running their incubator, I saw all kinds of deals, right? It's my job. I had like 100 companies there. And these young guys come in and they had a robotic stirring system. So you clamp this thing on a pot and it sits there and stirs. And it had like infrared so that if, it knew like to stop stirring if there were hot spots or something, right? They figured this thing out. Actually, I was like, do you guys cook? I know. Have you ever been in a kitchen? No. I'm like, do you see the problem? They're like, yeah. They come back like 8 months later. I'm like, what's the update? We've been working in a restaurant for the last eight months. And they went and worked at like Applebee's or somewhere, right? Just like working a regular job. And I was like, oh my God, like now I believe you more, right? Now I feel like you've rolled up your sleeves and really understood the problem. So I think you have to kind of experience the problem and really think about the different ways you might solve the problem.
Do you think
And so I think that's by the way, they abandoned that idea.
did they?
Yeah.
Because of the time at Applebee's made them decide throw it out.
Yeah. Basically, they said it's not about it stirring. It has to be washed and cleaned and used, and things are moving
Mm.
so fast. And it turns out these cooks, they're pretty good at multitasking. And in
That's
fact,
what
like a
I think
robotic
this is a
serve,
perfect sorry. It's a perfect
a
metaphor
robotic
for the
stir is too
construction
slow. It gets
industry.
in the way. It gets in the way, right?
Okay. It's a perfect metaphor for the construction industry because like tech keeps coming in telling us like none of them have done construction and we're like and then they realize what construction is and they're like let's get out of here.
Yeah. But
Is
but
there
I think
people go ahead.
yeah, so I think there's that, right? The other pattern I look for is this curiosity about needing to know and try everything in a business. When a founder tells me, I'm like, hey, tell me about your financial projections. Oh, I need to talk to my CFO. I don't care if you're a great finance person, you have to build your own financial models. You need to understand them. And you may not love it, or you might find out that you do love it, right? But that's the job. So tell me about marketing. Oh, let me get my marketing. No, I'm asking you, right? So there has to be, whether you're good at it or not, you can't be good at every functional area in a business. And most entrepreneurs are just generally mediocre at all the things, right? Jack of all trades, master of none type. But you have to have the intellectual curiosity to understand and know these things. And when founders come to me like, oh, I don't know, my CTO can answer that question. I literally just asked you what cloud platform you're running on. I did not ask you, I did not do code review with you. And you can't even tell me whether you're on AWS or Google Cloud. Like, come on, right? It's your product. You should know.
How do you know if when you're seeing like negative traits in people kind of I guess my question really is can people change? Can they become an entrepreneur? Do you think there's innate things inside of you that make you an entrepreneur?
I think you can fabricate an entrepreneur. I think you can, but a lot of it's psychology, right? It's like if you look at the Avengers, right? What is Black Widow's superpower?
Does she have one?
She's just very skilled.
Oh, I
Right?
thought
She's
she
just
might.
very skilled. She doesn't have any superhuman power,
Like Batman
right?
then. He's rich.
Then you look at Thor. He's got superhuman powers. The Hulk was fabricated.
Hmm. Fair point.
So I'm saying is you can be, what is Tony Stark's superpower?
Money. Brain.
Manufacture, right? His brain, manufacture. So I think there is something. I think but I think the problem is I might be able to turn you into an entrepreneur, which means if you come from the corporate world, you probably need like a very defined understanding of salary and paying your bills. And unless you can be in that safety zone, you can't even process or think about anything creative, right? Which is fine, right? People like me, I'm wired very differently, right? In terms like those aren't the important things. They've never been the important things. I'm like, I'll figure it out, right? I'll get there and figure it out. And so I think you have to really look at the individual and see what it's going to take to put them in this psychological zone of being an entrepreneur.
Do you like humility or confidence better? And can you have both?
You have both. You have
How
both.
does that look? How does it look? And is that what you want? Humility and confidence?
Yeah.
What does that
Okay.
look like?
What you want is someone to be confident in their abilities. Like, I know how to do this. I'm good, right? You want humility in the sense that I'm not the only one that can do this. There are part of humility is you can be confident in your abilities, but the minute you start believing you're the only one that can do this,
That's where
that's when,
stubbornness comes too,
yeah,
right?
that's also where like humility, it's funny. Some friends of mine run a company called Anduril. It's a defense business. And one of their biggest hiring objectives is humility because they hire some really, really smart people. And if you don't have, within very, very smart people, if you don't have humility, you lose the room for debate. You lose the room for disagreement. And there's nothing better than a room of 10 really smart people disagreeing with each other. That's when magic happens, right? And so it's very interesting. It's a good question though.
Appreciate it. Do you have to go?
No, I'm good.
Think. I mean, I have a million other questions. Can we do some fun, maybe quick ones? Is blockchain viable for our industry?
Yes, it might be the only
More.
option for our industry.
So how does that look like? Because the way I'm envisioning it, the way I understand blockchain is everybody shares the ledger, making the ledger really hard to hack. That's like, okay, and blocks of data. Okay, you explain to me how it's going to help
I
construction
mean,
then.
so when I talk about decentralization,
Yes.
right? Benefit of technology like blockchain, right, is now all of a sudden there is a single system of record that none of us own, right? There is no option, there is no interpretation. It is what, so think about, if I'm an owner, right? And I want to review RFIs, where am I reviewing them? And from my architect's point of view, the architect's responses, the subcontractors drafting and adding, giving it to the GC, that then gets sent over to the architect, that then gets like, where is it? So in the world of blockchain, every response around that RFI is all sitting on the blockchain. And I know exactly when, who, what, when, right? So as an owner, I can take a view of that and say, oh, so here's what really back to that's where I think it has a role. If you talk about high decentralization, technologies like blockchain become the system of.
I mean, I'm scared to get into this one because for some reason I feel like it could go somewhere weird, but I don't want to be political at all. I just think it's interesting to talk about immigration from a construction perspective. Can I leave it that open-ended?
Yeah, sure.
Talk about immigration.
We have a labor shortage in our industry. Can we all agree that not everybody on a job site is legal? Well, you scare off people that are not in this country
I'm scared to say
legally,
yes, to be honest.
right?
I'm just kidding.
Not on all my jobs, they are.
Yeah.
Like the guy across the street, I don't know about his jobs, but yeah. So and it really two sides of the coin, right? Hey, if we can put people to work that want to do the work and are good at the, let's figure it out, right? I mean, how much joy is a illegal immigrant on a job site getting out of being? They're scared out of their mind half the time. Now, that's one hat, right? It just kind of makes sense. We need to figure that stuff out. I don't have the right answer, but I'm saying it needs to be figured out. And I don't think politicians will figure it out because they're not critical thinkers. They're the flip side is my robotics companies are doing really well because of the scarcity of talent. The industry's having to adopt, right? If you think about it, if I don't have to buy a robot and I can get the job done at the cost I need easily, the way I've always done it, why do I want to? Why do I need to change? In fact, I might feel like I'm putting my buddy out of a job if I buy a robot. But in a world where there's a scarcity of talent, now all of a sudden it's like I have no choice to use a robot. Now, the second part of that equation is if they have a great experience, they may never hire another person again.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And I'm seeing some of those patterns where like, you know, your robot's not as fast. Cause I'll tell you, some of these trades, you've probably seen it. Guys, it's like ballet.
Amazing.
It's like, how are they doing? Like, see these guys hanging drywall or mason. You're like, oh my God, like what a talent. Good thing we're barely paying them a minimum, a living wage, but they're very talented. So I think that's where like I have people coming to me saying, hey, that robot is not nearly as fast as a human. It took us a minute to get used to using it. It works 24/7, so its throughput per day is much higher, but it's slower, right? But in a world where I can get a lot of these superhuman artisans on my job site, why would I ever consider? But now that you do, why are you going to ever go back?
Yeah. Do you think the robots for construction should be humanoid? I didn't either. It goes back to the stuff that you're talking about. Like, computer doesn't need to be human-like. But I wonder what they won't look at like they will look like a tool, I would think. It would look more like
Yeah.
a machine than
Yeah.
a person.
Yeah, and a lot of it's in the near term is going to be highly like assistant oriented. I mean, I saw this startup. I thought it was fascinating, and they were talking about once you install the circuit breakers and you like flip them on,
Mhm.
like you have a choice. You either wear this like suit, this like shockproof suit, and you go flip them on, or you have to figure out another way, right? So they built this robot that like kind of like those bomb robots you see in TV. It like comes in and starts flipping on the circuit breaker. So if there's a fault,
Yeah,
the
yeah.
robot gets zapped.
That's great.
And I was like, that's I mean, that's a novel use, right? I mean, I think that's a safety thing. So I think what you're going to see happen is the form factors of robots will vary. They're going to get cheaper and cheaper. They're going to get better and better. I was looking at buying a humanoid Unitree at $16,000,
Mhm.
and I was going to like hire someone in India to remote control it to unload my dishwasher, make my bed.
Why do they have to be in India? That's the cheap.
At low cost labor. So then I have a full-time butler, right? A robot remotely, and maybe it learns. And then my younger son makes the funniest comment. He's like, "Yeah, dad, you know that guy in India? He's gonna like slash your throat in your sleep with the robot, steal all your watches, and jump into a Waymo."
Ah,
I'm like, "Yeah, that sounds about right."
maybe. Do you get dystopian, or are you pretty much optimistic?
I'm pretty optimistic. I
Yeah.
think I think the fact that we're talking about it, right? I think one of the things that the collective we missed with the internet was some like we understood cybersecurity, right? We understood all those things. We understood the criminal aspects of things around security and secure socket layer and firewalls and all that stuff, right? I think some of the psychological stuff, some of the screen addiction stuff, the social media stuff, I don't think early days, because I was early days in the internet, like 1996, right? I don't think we ever thought about this like psychological impact to society. I don't think we really thought about it back then, right?
Mm-mm.
And I think with AI, I think we have a better lens. Like I don't think anyone believes that the internet's working well for society. Like from a, hu- a personal life perspective. Yeah, we can order groceries and do all the things. That's fine. But some of the social media stuff, I think, is one of those dynamics where we're like, how did we miss that one? Right? The polarization of social media, stuff like that. So I think there's too many really smart people worried about it for it to kind of happen.
Good. I got another one that might be too big to give it justice because I should have asked this earlier because it's one of my favorites. But topic is just like I think you and I both are trying to get the top level to adopt tech and have it trickle down. Like owners, well, I've heard it from both. I think it's from both. I've heard people like get mad at me for suggesting that owners should have the technology and everyone below them should use that technology. But I think people really think it should come from the bottom. You got to have like the laborer adopt the tech. Is
Mhm.
there any like how do you view those two directions?
I really believe in ubiquitous technology being much more ubiquitous than it being a chore, right? And I think the minute you say adopting it is hard. Like let's think about it this way. What was the adoption friction in Facebook?
Login?
Who went to
None?
Facebook training?
Nobody.
Nobody, right? People were motivated enough and it was easy enough, right? I'm not saying, it was flawless, right, in terms of the technology and the UX and all that. But I think the minute you have to say it's not being adopted, then you have to say why. And the number one reason why technology does not get adopted is it's worthless. It does not create any value to me. And I care about me, and you care about you, and you care about getting home on time, and you care about doing a great job for your customers. So when you look at something and you say, okay, well, like, how's this helping me do my job? Now, the problem with that is just because you adopt technology and it helps you do your job, don't go around telling your friends that, oh my God, you got to use this technology. It's amazing. Because they might have a different job, right? And so I think it's this like personalization of how I want to use technology. It's like, I think I was talking to someone the other day about, I think we're moving towards, like mechanics bring their own tools to work. I think we might be moving that way, right? If you're in sales and you want to use Salesforce, if that's what you need to do your job, do it. Oh, you like HubSpot? Do it. Like, who cares, right? Because think about it, on a job site, nobody's saying, hey, that's not a Milwaukee drill. No one says that. Hey, well, what are you doing with that? Like, no, this is my tool. My job's to hang drywall. Leave me alone. Like, why do you care what drill I'm using? Right? So I think as you start to think and get to where people kind of either make their own technology, because vibe coding is only getting better and better. We have our Vibe-a-thon later this month, right? So you're going to see that where just like you create your own spreadsheets, you might create your own code and say, hey, for this project, I need to build something to do this punch list because nobody else has done it. And you just build something and you go do it, right? At the end of the project, you throw it away.
Mm-hmm.
I think you're going to start seeing more and more of that. Like, I don't care how you get the job done. Use whatever technology you want to use.
I like that future. That sounds cool to me. Oh, I need software. It's that easy, prompt it.
Is the accounting software for you or is it for the corporate overlords?
Yeah, right?
Like, actually, when I was in engineering, I hated the way our invoices looked. I just hated them. So I would have accounting print out an invoice and tell them I was going to hand deliver the invoice. And I would recreate the invoice in WordPerfect the way I wanted it to look, with the details I wanted, and just use the same invoice number. And then accounting caught me. And I'm like, it has the right invoice number. It has the right amount. It has the right terms. Leave me alone.
Yeah.
And it was a big deal. Like, what are you doing? You're doing fraud. And I'm like, am I doing fraud? Like, what are you talking? It's not payable to me. My boss defended me. Like, you know what he's doing? He's doing customer service. Customer hates our invoices. He's going through the trouble of recreating them to look the way the customer wants them so that they can easily pay. Leave him alone. I had a really cool boss because he was, my boss wasn't an engineer. So whenever I would say things, he's like, yeah, that makes sense.
I like the sound of that. I don't hear that often. Really good talking to you, KP. I want to point people to the books, Intangible Enterprise, and everything what you know about startups is wrong. Sorry, I almost got that wrong. And then the first one that is about BIM or something.
It's about BIM, but BIM's dead. So don't even go buy. Don't even give me your money on that one.
Yeah.
It's old news.
Check him out on LinkedIn, but he doesn't want to be there anymore. So go to Substack.
Yeah. Substack's been a lot of fun.
It does seem cool. It seems like more of a, I don't know, I'm going to make it my personal journal a little bit, the things I want to share, just because I should.
Yeah, I just feel like LinkedIn's just gotten very spammy.
It feels like it's going that direction. I still love it. Thanks, everybody, and talk to you soon, KP.
All right, we'll see you, Seth.